call this debate to order on resolved. President Trump is advancing the cause of peace abroad. And I'm now looking for an opening speech in the affirmative. And for that, I'd like to go to Cynthia King. Cynthia, you've got 4 minutes. Cynthia, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Cynthia King, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to talk about several wars, so I probably won't get all of them, none of which did Donald Trump start. Countries fight wars because they want something else more than they want peace. It's great if you can negotiate out of a war, but just refusing to fight back does not make it not a war. It just means you gave up. You can fight wars with guns or bombs or poison gas, or you can fight a war with drugs or trade, whatever gets you what you wanted. Now, in the 1850s, France and England wanted to trade with China and control China. China didn't need them for anything, and China didn't want to trade. So England and France cooperated to create the Opium Wars. This was not a situation where people in China wanted opium, but China and England, or France and England, started importing it to China so they could make money off of it, but also because they knew it would weaken and destroy the country, and they wanted to control China, and it worked. We are in exactly the same kind of war. Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, and some other countries make a lot of money sending drugs to America, whether we want them or not. And drugs create their own market. Now, when a pimp grabs a woman and feeds her a bunch of drugs until she becomes an addict, he is not doing that to give her a mind-blowing experience. He's doing it to control her and make money off her. And we have been in a drug war since at least the 1980s. Thank God Donald Trump is fighting back. And it's a war, a real war. Tariffs, another way to conquer a country is by attacking their economy. We are in a trade war. We've been in a trade war since the late 1970s. I know this because that was when I was on a committee trying to save the very last steel plants in America. Americans are stupid or lazy to have industry, but other countries know that we are the easiest market in the world to sell things to. We have hundreds of millions of people, speak the same language, have the same kind of electrical outlets. And once you drop something at the point of Maine, you can sell all the way to California. But they don't want to buy anything from us. They would rather just have us lend them, borrow money from them. Therefore, our economy is in terrible shape because of the protectionist attitude of an awful lot of countries in the world. We export, and when you look at what America imports and exports, it says that we export financial products. Financial products is a word for debt. I'm a financial economist, and we export debt. Eventually, we're going to have to pay it back. We package our mortgage loans on our houses and sell them like a bond to people all over the world. And that puts us at a disadvantage. And other countries might not actually say that they have tariffs, but they certainly have enormous barriers to stop Americans from being able to sell products in their countries. So if tariffs encourage more companies to create things in America, I'm 100% for it. And that trade war is a war because it makes you weaker and it allows other people to control you. Trump didn't start it. He's the first president to fight back. Greenland. I don't think we really wanted to make Greenland part of the United States. We just want to have
30 seconds, Cynthia.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk about the fact that strategically we need Greenland for strategic materials, and also for the fact that they are actually a good place to see missiles coming over, or NATO, or also the war in Iran. But I have 5 children. It's really hard to just choose one. Thank you very much. Am I done?
Yep. Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate our first speaker. It's not easy to open a Braver Angels debate, but Cynthia, you've done well. And I also want to thank all of you who joined and who are listening there and didn't raise hands with questions until I called for that. Sometimes people raise their hands a little bit early because they're excited to ask questions. But it's nice to listen before that happens. Now, however, I'd like to know. Does anyone have questions for our speaker? All right, I see Jason. Jason, please unmute, ask your question to me.
Thank you. I'm wondering, so the speaker discussed the tariffs and with regards to trade. I'm wondering if the speaker can comment on the recent Supreme Court decision that said that the tariffs were unconstitutional, and yet the president preceded that decision to just re-implement more tariffs under other laws. And I'm wondering how that is a peaceful approach.
To our speaker.
It sounds like the president needs to get Congress in line, and if Congress isn't in line, that they don't care about the American people and our economy, because we cannot forever live by borrowing money from other people so that we can buy stuff from other people.
Let's go next to Colleen. Colleen, please unmute, ask your question to me.
Yes, hi, Mr. Chair. How does the speaker think that all the points that she made, or pick one or two, how do they contribute to global peace and
To our
make
speaker.
Trump, and make Trump a peacemaker? Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. To our speaker.
Wars don't start because usually, maybe Iran is different, but wars don't start because somebody said, hey, I want to fight. People wanted something. And often what they want is control over another country. America needs to remain strong, and we need to have a mutual relationship with other countries instead of our being the world's policeman, the world's guardian, and frankly, the world's sucker. So
one more. Sorry, Cynthia. I didn't mean to cut you off. One more. I keep seeing Wendy's hand come up and go down again, and I saw it very early on, so I wanted to call in Wendy. And I'm forgetting the last name.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would, people have
Mr. Chair.
addressed, I'm sorry, thank you, Mr.
That's okay.
Chair. I'm sorry. People have addressed some aspects of it, but I was curious with the speaker in terms of how she feels that having the desire to control others lead to mutual respect and, dare I say, peace.
To our speaker.
I'm not sure I understood your question.
How do you think the question is, how does the speaker think wanting to control leads to mutual respect and peace?
I'm not saying wanting to control leads to mutual respect. I'm saying having a arrangement where we have mutual respect instead of one group controlling the other is what leads to peace. For example, Russia invaded Ukraine because they wanted to control Ukraine. They didn't just say, hey, I really hate Ukraine. They wanted to control Ukraine. They wanted to control Ukraine's strategic minerals. And they had just told the Chinese government that they were going to sell more wheat to China than Russia is remotely capable of growing themselves. Ukraine, which is one of the largest countries in the world growing wheat, immediately recognized, right, as soon as that thing came out where Russia was promising all this wheat to China, the Ukrainians knew immediately where Russia was planning to get it. They asked immediately to join NATO. NATO refused them, and Russia attacked them. Russia wants to control Ukraine. That's why they did it. When Eritrea and Ethiopia go into a war, part of it is, that's
Cynthia, let's wrap up here in response.
But it's because Ethiopia wants to control or at least have access to Eritrea's ports.
All right.
Okay.
Well, with that, we're gonna move on. Let's all thank our first speaker, and thank you all for excellent, concise, curious questions. Those are great models for future questions. Thank you all. We're gonna move to the negative now, and thank you, Cynthia, for your brave first speech here in tonight's debate. For our first speech in the negative, I'd like to go to Max Jafari. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Max, you can unmute. You got 4 minutes.
This is my first go at this, so I'll see how I do. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Welcome.
So I see as I like another economic colleague. I see the world largely through incentives and incentive structures. And I believe that Trump has only encouraged negative incentives. I think he's done it in three key places. Like Cynthia had mentioned with tariffs, I think tariffs have largely
Our
lowered
previous
the
speaker.
barriers.
Our previous
Sorry,
speaker.
my fault.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, our previous speaker. So tariffs have, in my opinion, only decreased the barriers to armed conflict. I believe that Trump's rhetoric domestically has only stoked a civil war, which would absolutely involve other countries. And I believe that his foreign policy, especially Operation Epstein Fury, has only led us further down this role of not being a peacemaker. I think Trump's repeated claims of solving 8 wars that we could go into, and I wasted a bunch of time learning what each of these 8 wars were, are all just talking points for electoral wins. None of them were hot wars, and none of them were solved. And the Abraham Accords are another example of just a false sign of peace. Include the fact of the matter is, none of the countries that are fighting right now, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel, only Israel was a signatory to the Abraham Accords. And he touts this as peace in the Middle East. This was signed prior to October 7th, prior to both attacks on Iran. We've been promised peace in the Middle East for since before I was born, and I don't see it coming anytime soon. The threats towards our allies are, in my view, absolutely disgusting. I think the fact of the matter is Canada and Denmark have both been our allies for years and years. One of them is our immediate neighbor, and I agree with the need for the natural resources in Greenland, but I think that that's something that can be achieved through trade and mutual agreement and mutual deals. I think China is closer every single day to moving into Taiwan, which will create a huge supply chain shortage for chips and semiconductors, considering that Nvidia and Apple are the two largest customers of TSMC. And we see this day in and day out, these strong tariffs that are supposed to be for negotiation or to make us rich or to on-site manufacturing haven't been used on Russia with this Ukraine war at all. And his Liberation Day tariffs were just meant to slap our allies in the face. They were just deficits divided by imports. And he just put up a bunch of fake numbers saying that all these other countries have these big tariffs on us, which there was no evidence for. Simply put, I think that lowering the barriers created by trade and mutual agreement and collections like NATO, the UN, the WTO, all these things bring people closer together and it encourage collaboration. When you diminish collaboration, it just lowers the barriers to conflict because you don't have to reroute supply chains. You don't have to worry about the Straits of Hormuz if you're not trading through it. And all we're seeing day in and day out is more loud chanting, more inflaming, more denial of the 2020
Oh,
election.
30 seconds max.
And all we've seen is the demonization of the Democrats and further stoking of civil war. That is my go of it.
All right. Thank you to our first negative speaker in the negative. We always slip in this in these like saying negative speaker. Well, not necessarily negative, just in virtue of arguing in the negative. Great speech, Max, and thank you for joining your first Brave Angels debate. We'll hope to have you back for more. Let's go to questions. I see one question, Merrick. You raised your hand a little earlier than I, try to wait and let the speech continue in the future, but no problem. Take it away. Ask your speech to me, or ask your question to me.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. It's my first time attending a Bravery Angels debate. I would like
Welcome.
to ask the previous speaker that has talked about incentive structures and has highlighted things such as Taiwan or other accords. When we talk about incentives, uh, especially from a military and peace trade based, is that it costs money to run the military, such as NATO, our military. But then you have a series of countries who do
And
not
Merrick,
buy in.
what's your question?
My
Can you bring it to
question
the
is,
question?
through incentive structures, do you believe that
Does the speaker believe?
does the speaker believe that we have that other countries should that are not putting into these the NATO and other military have equal say. There's what is the
Yeah,
report to people not putting in their fair share to NATO to benefit from these incentives?
to our speaker. You're muted, Max, just as heads.
I think that's a great question, and I think I have a suitable answer. And my answer to these agreements and multilateral or multinational agreements is that America's the adult in the room. We put the most into it. We have the loudest voice in those rooms. And do I think that there are situations, especially with Ukraine, where I would like to see more support from our allies? Absolutely. And I think your criticism is warranted. But the reality is, when we're sitting here in America and we have a president who wants to be really hard on these countries that he can easily bully, but when it comes to Russia or China, he just wants to throw around vacuous statements about, oh, I'm talking to both of them, I'm sending phone calls, Xi Jinping's my friend. I don't think those actually help. I think that these leaders that I would see as our enemies are largely watching and waiting for America to make another blunder that they can capitalize on.
Thank you. Let's go to another question here. Nathan, please unmute. Ask your question to me.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask the speaker, if the speaker doesn't think President Trump is advancing peace abroad, what does the speaker think is the underlying agenda of President Trump?
Thank you for the concise question.
I think it's very sad. I think that Trump is a narcissist and is purely trying to get some headlines. For example, when he is saying, I obliterated the nuclear facility with Operation Midnight Hammer, and then months later, we're doing more strikes for clearly, I mean, for just some empty reason that all of his cabinet officials will give us different reasons. It clouds things. In terms of 2020, I think Trump knows he lost the election. I think he just doesn't want to be seen as a loser to Sleepy Joe. And I think that naming all these, giving badass names, sorry for the cussing, to Operation Epic Fury or Midnight Hammer, I think largely he is just trying to curry favor and look like a cool action hero. And I think that's largely his motivation. And he's surrounded by what I would deem as sycophants that are just trying to get in his good graces to leverage the popularity and power that he has.
Let's go to one more question here, especially if it's quick, please. Art Haynes. I can only imagine that on the left I'm seeing Art and on the right I'm seeing Haynes. So please ask one question to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would love sometime tonight to have each of the speakers define what a peacemaker is, what their criteria for a peacemaker, and how President Trump either does or does not meet those criteria. I'm hearing lots of ideas, complaints. I'd like to hear what is a peacemaker and how does Trump fit into your definition?
Let's have our speaker answer. Max, to our speaker, what is the definition of a peacemaker?
Yeah, I think that kicking the can down the road for these events to just flare up again. For example, Crimea was occupied while Trump was president. He did nothing. They invaded again under Biden, and then Trump's screaming, oh my God, Biden is such an incompetent president. And I do not believe in absolutes. I think there are just wars, and I think there are bad pieces. And I think that a peacemaker is somebody who is willing to work with his Congress, his government, his allies in order to bring people together and say, hey, us and all these other countries are sick of you fighting. If you guys are going to keep fighting, we're going to send in some NATO forces to mediate, or we're going to put sanctions on you. And I think that instilling that pressure in these nations is really what's important. And I think Trump has put pressure, no question of it, but I just don't think he's put effective pressure.
All right, with that, those excellent responses, excellent questions, and a great speech. Jazz hands for our first speech in the negative. Max, welcome to Brave Rangers Debates. I hope you come and join us again. Thank you for the speech. Let's go back to the affirmative now. This is what we do. Go back and forth. We'll go to Kelly Hager. I believe I pronounced the last name right. Kelly, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you have 4 minutes. Take it away.
Yes, Hager like the slacks. Good evening, Mr. Chair. Quick mini bio may help people see where I'm coming from. U.S. Air Force 74 to 94, 2,000 hours B-52 pilot, so 9 years at the pointed end of the spear. Flight safety, 4 years, branch officer in Pentagon, so I was at the handle end of the spear. I had 2 years of use it or lose it GI Bill, so I went to law school at 50. got 2 law degrees, law review, pre-publication draft, changed my state's laws the way I suggested. As to the big picture tonight, resolved advancing the cause of peace. Allow me to start a little higher up on the ladder of abstraction, because we need to take into account possibly the very limited effects that our choice of president and then what any U.S. president does or does not do may have on the world stage and on peace. That's because I believe why the mullahs act as they do puts Iran over every other conflict in the world, including Ukraine and Taiwan, way down on the list of war concerns. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't cite any of the half dozen much smaller conflicts where Trump dampened them or said he had or whatever. My position would be the same if President Trump had ended no other dispute. I believe that what the U.S. is doing is reacting to the Iranian actions, not causing them. Now, I'm basing my ranking of Iran far above every other conflict due to a fundamental difference in scholarly opinion on the essential nature of Islam. Expert opinion differs on whether their terror actions are heretical, that was Bernard Lewis's view, or mainstream, for instance, Robert Spencer. If Lewis is correct, peace can happen anytime with anyone who follows, "Come now, let us reason together." That verse went nowhere when LBJ quoted Isaiah 118 to Ho Chi Minh. Ho didn't want peace, he wanted victory. By any Western standard, the mullahs controlling Iran have been at war with the U.S. since 1979. They've been sponsoring terror groups and proxies for decades. I believe they still would not have acted any differently towards the U.S. or the West as a whole if neither Jews nor Israel had ever existed. They call them the little Satan. They call us, the U.S., the big Satan. Either way, their and the terror they sponsor are totally outside the Hague and the Geneva Conventions. Nothing they have done complies with the laws of armed conflict. Being already in continuous action, even if mainly by paid proxies against us and our ally Israel, allows us to respond by force while not violating Article 51 of the UN Charter. Now, even if the 1973 War Powers Act is constitutional, and no president of either party has thought that it was, I believe we're in compliance with it. The Democrats are 0 for 3. The drug votes failed 48 to 51 on October 8th. Iran in the House failed 212 to 219 on March 5th, and the Senate failed 48 to 51 on October 8th. Even if passed somehow, there's a 0 chance.
30 seconds, Kelly.
Yeah, 2/3 of both chambers would override any veto. Arresting Maduro and seizing a dozen bootleg oil tankers cut off their revenue, plus it crimps Aziz in China's oil supply and budget balance. So I believe destroying the mullahs' military ability and every type of armed forces and choking their financial tools are huge steps towards peace in both the Middle East and the larger world. I believe our actions are legal, proper, and effective. Thank you.
Right on time, Kelly. Thank you for your speech. I'm just going to run us right into questions here. So let's go to Eric Sylvester. Eric, please unmute and ask your question to me.
All right. I have a very concise question, and that is, if we were to make a list, or if the president, Trump, were to make a list of the number one priority things that he could do to advance the cause of peace, what should be his number one priority goal or thing to accomplish to advance the cause of peace?
I think he's already doing it. My answer is taking out their ability to build or launch nukes. I think he's already doing it.
Let's go to another. Steve, please unmute. Ask your question to me. Steve Mailers.
So the folks who are representing us seem to have a hard time on defining whether we are at war or not. Even when they speak, they will say, yes, we're at war. And then they'll say, oh, sorry, I missed a question. So my question is, if we're spending $1 billion a day in Iran, doesn't that seem like that would indicate a war, no matter how you mince the words?
How the speaker would slice. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
using the you in the general sense there.
Yeah.
Would the speaker say that we're at war?
We are performing warlike actions. The United States has not declared war since July of 1942. We have fought almost 200 quote unquote wars. I mean, was Korea a police action or was it a war? One of the problems that non-lawyers and civilians have with these issues is they don't understand the difference between the use of armed force and being in a state of declared war. We are not in a state of declared war, which is not necessary for the president to perform military action.
Let's go to one more here. I won't be able to take 3 questions forever, but there are so many new faces. Jai, please unmute. Ask your question to me.
Well, thank you to the speaker. As we sit here comfortably in our rooms, I'd like to show the picture of over 100 graves of dead children. To the speaker, would they agree? Would they agree with the speaker that the United States is not at war? Those dead children?
The presence or absence of civilian fatalities has absolutely nothing to do with the legal question of whether you're in a state of war or not. And I hate to get on my legal horse. The civilian definition of the word proportionate has absolutely nothing to do with the Hague or the Geneva Conventions.
Got it. They don't matter. Got it.
Thank you to our speaker and to a few concise questions. Let's move on to another speech in the negative. Yes, thank you for the jazz hands, those of you who are offering it. This is what we're all about. We're all about moving back and forth between different perspectives, sharing disagreement. Thank you to those who are asking questions and speakers who are responding, and for continuing to wait until as much as possible until speech is finished to raise hands for asking questions. Got another speech in the negative now. Susan Lindsay. Susan, please unmute, and you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Susan Lindsay, and I view the president's choices and decisions as impulsive and transactional, focused on short-term wins and personal political gains. He is not advancing the cause of peace abroad. Peace in almost all cases cannot be accomplished through aggression or opportunism. There has been times in history when helping a country or people militarily has been appropriate. In fact, I believe that World War II would have been lost to Hitler had the US not entered that war. But war is different now. Nobody can afford to engage in all-out war because of the unspoken threat of the end of time that a nuclear war would bring. So this is really important because most wars simply don't even have a possibility of accomplishing what their intentions are because nobody can risk an all-out war. In my mind, this means truly that all war is obsolete at this point in history. In his first term, President Trump's Abraham Accords looked very promising, and it was truly a breakthrough, in my opinion. I celebrated this. But this term, President Trump's maximum pressure campaign in all things foreign and domestic are not that of a peacemaker. He is even okay promoting divide in this country. The sad fact is that President Trump relishes chaos and conflict. I will not go through all the costs and specifics of his exploits because we see it daily in the news, but they are shocking, which is one of his objectives. They're risky and bankrupting with little chance of success, and they are dangerous to all of us. As such, President Trump is playing survival games with people's welfare, cultures, and lives, even with children's lives. He is careless and unapologetic. Peaceful change that lasts comes from within communities via their own cultures and beliefs, not from another country's culture and beliefs. Meaningful peace can emerge through solidarity, nonviolence, and persistence. We can still support the ideals of a reform from the fringes, but it must be done in a way that doesn't harm more than it helps. Otherwise, it would be better if we stepped back. History is full of these examples. Gandhi, Mandela, MLK's dream of equality, and the peaceful revolutions in Philippines, Central and Eastern Europe. There are many, many examples of social movements that have expanded the rights of many without tearing nations apart. And I want to be clear, This doesn't simply lie at the feet of President Trump. This is a human problem. This lies at the feet of those of us unable to ask for forgiveness or grant forgiveness. This lies at the feet of those of us who places one sex, one race, one religion, one culture above all others. It lies at the feet of every human who isn't serious about treating every other person like our greatest advocates have treated us. We all have work to do in these areas. Peace is hard work. Peace is a sacred process. Peace is not for the faint-hearted. In the past, we've expected our leaders to adhere to a higher standard, such as an arbitrator of peace. President Donald Trump rarely demonstrates that. This makes me very sad. In conclusion, I contend that President Trump simply doesn't have the time, nor the will, nor the inclination to engage in a thoughtful and compassionate process like peace. I love this country, but we deserve better than a leader like President Trump. Thank you.
Thank you to our fourth speaker overall, second in the negative. Appreciate it. And I also want to flag, well, let's see. I just wanted to say I received a note here from an attendee. I should have said this, but thank you to our previous speaker for his service as well. I'd like to give jazz hands for our previous speaker for his service. Thank you. We like to do that when possible. Those of you who raised your hands before the speech was finished, please try and wait in the future until speeches are finished to raise your hands. But I'll go here to Michael to ask a question. Please unmute Michael and ask your question to me.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Michael. I meant Michael Franklin. Michael Abram. I should have clarified. Didn't see that there were two Michaels. I'm going to go Michael Franklin's hand I saw first. Thank you, Michael Abramson.
Okay.
I was going to, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Please ask your question to me.
My question is this. What I got out of the previous speaker was wishing and a hoping is the way that we solve problems as President
Michael,
yes.
What's your question? Sorry, I see that you're on the list. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, does the previous speaker really believe in a wishing and a hoping and relying on other people's good generosity is going to solve problems? Because I don't see it that way.
To our speaker.
What's that?
That's sorry. I thought that was
it's as simple as that. President Obama was a wishing and a hoping in Iran. It was never going to happen under his.
Michael, let's go to our speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Michael, for the question.
Oh, please, sorry, Susan. Refer to the speaker directly. Yep, thank you.
I don't consider that Mandela's work was wishing and a hoping. I don't think that MLK's work was wishing and a hoping. It can be done a different way. It is a matter of will. It is a matter of solidarity. It is a matter of commitment. And we all have that possibility. And those are the times that the greatest movement in the best way have been moved.
Let's go to another. Timothy, please unmute and ask your question to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a first-time participant. I appreciate the opportunity to join.
Welcome. Welcome.
And I want to thank the previous speaker for her eloquence and her passion. But I want to ask whether the previous speaker would really believe that war is outdated and now useless if one is attacked. As our first speaker, in fact, pointed out, there have been attacks of various sorts on the United States. If we are under attack, is war really useless?
To our speaker.
War is an option, but it's not the best option. There are far better options out there than war. And the reason that I say that, not only as a person who loves this planet and doesn't want to see it destroyed, is because it actually works if we work hard at it. And instead of just the knee-jerk reaction that has happened particularly since 9/11, that we just go all out, and that is the first response. So I do believe that there are times where there may be a reason, but it should be not the first thing out of our toolkit.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to move us along, actually, because we've got a lot of speakers still to come. So let's move on to our next speaker in the affirmative. I'm going to turn Sulani. I know that I had said earlier, but we've got a speaker that needs to leave a little bit early. So I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. Thanks for the thumbs up. I'm going to go to Sherry Gravely. Sherry, please unmute. You've got 4 minutes.
Oh, hi, everybody. Yeah. So thank you, Chair. I think my goal is probably like a lot of yours and like the beauty contestants, world peace. We all agree that we want it, I think, but we might disagree on how to get it. I personally think a projection of strength so that bad actors see us as always open to action to advance freedom is the most important. And Trump took care of the official issues that make this essential or that are central to this, having a safe and secure border that truly vets immigrants and manages their entry, supporting a strong military investment, ensuring we have energy and not depleting our strategic reserves as was done under Biden, and ensuring the U.S. can manufacture. These are actions that weren't taken by either Biden or Obama and each time left the world less peaceful. And I'll tell you what, the facts, and ChatGPT, by the way, if you want to go to them, they agree. They listed Obama's 2008 to 2016 as high global conflict period. Okay, major conflicts. I don't think we need to go through all of them. There were just a bunch of them. Obviously, we know about Crimea. We know about a more belligerent North Korea. Iraq was not his fault, I have to say. Syrian civil war. During Trump, ChatGPT actually called it a relative decline in conflict with no new large interstate wars. As a matter of fact, the Abraham Accords, I know someone kind of disparaged those, but I'm 60, and that was the first time that I had any hope for peace. Why? Because Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, and we were on the border of getting Saudi Arabia before October 7th. We're all part of this. He also helped normalize business relationships and push strong economic policies, and the world was thriving. So I think this term one was very important. Back to 2024, and ChatGPT says, oh, conflicts increased again during the Biden period. Major wars and conflicts expanded. We all know them. There were some really horrible ones. Lax leadership by our leadership is unfortunately just a fact, meaning that there's going to be a less peaceful world. Bad actors knew they could do things under the other administrations. They knew in general they can't under Trump. See, I view everything from what we called realpolitik, which is what was kind of the key words in the 80s. It's common sense of the Trump administration based on policies and actual considerations and realistic analysis, not on ideological dreams, not premises that might happen. We don't want to just believe that, oh, everything can be honky-dory. The world is a dangerous place. We're lucky. We're surrounded by water and two generally friendly neighbors, but other places aren't. There's so many chances for wars. We don't want wars, obviously, and I don't love the present war. Though I have to admit, I loved Israel and U.S.'s destruction of Iran's nuclear sites, our aggressive stance against drug cartels in South America, etc. I'm sorry, it's not a war of choice, but it's actually a war delayed and backburnered for 50 years. They've been at war with us for decades, people. They took out our embassy in the 1980s for a year. They killed 330 Marines in Lebanon. They're the source of almost all the terror casualties by their money, by their efforts. They arm and equip Hezbollah and Hamas, and they've repeatedly called for the destruction of us and Israel and really the whole Western world. I know it's just easy to be against anything that Mr. Trump does, right? If he wants to get rid of illegals, no, we can't do that. Many people just say reflexively no, but when because Trump is doing it, right? But it was okay when Obama or Biden did it, right? Pelosi went in a whole description, if you want to look on YouTube, about how Obama had all the rights to his war powers, surging troops in Afghanistan, the war against ISIS, killing of Osama bin Laden, actions in Libya and Benghazi, airstrikes in Syria and Iraq, droning many terrorists.
About 30 seconds, Sherry.
Sure, totally supported. So I'm probably still uncertain about how the whole Iranian conflict went, though I know something, which is, and I asked ChatGPT, in the last 16 years, the four least violent, the four most peaceful were under Trump. Sorry, that's just what it is.
All right, let's go to some questions. Nancy, I see a hand up. If you want to unmute, ask your question to me.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to have the following question. It sounds like any means to an end are potentially okay with the speaker. And I'd like to just bring up the closing borders and getting rid of illegal immigrants and ask. So I'm curious to know how you justify, speaker, the militarization of U.S. cities and clearly
I
abuse
think
and death.
that sounds good. How does the speaker justify the militarization of U.S. cities? Let's go
Well,
with that.
I think language is a tricky thing, right? I don't think it's a militarization to take people who've behaved illegally, are a member of gangs, to ask cities to cooperate and allow us to deport them. I don't think that's militarization. I think that's actually law and order. And that's kind of what Trump is, right? So if you agree with law and order, you're going to agree with that, right?
Questioner.
Oh, what the speaker would think. That's what I think. So yeah, that's where I think that it's not. It's those are words that are used. Militarization is just an attempt to use, ad hominem kind of stuff. I wouldn't do that. I just think that that's projecting a strong recognition that we have a right to protect our cities, our borders. Of course, I would never have let in 11 million people illegally that we didn't vet at all. So yeah, that's difference, and that's how I think that projects a safety and a concern for the American people.
Let's go to a previous speaker, Max. Please unmute. Ask your question to me.
Yes. So my question is, have any of the signatories of the Abraham Accords ever fought with Israel?
Of course, Mr. Chair, I think that the wars, there's a lot of, as you know, subtle war and behavior in that part of the country, that part of the world. Whether they fought or not, what I care about was those really important economic ties and open to relationships that were going to be the positive that was going to happen. So, of course, I've been around a long time. I've watched that part of the country and been absolutely saddened by what's happened. The thought that that was going to be potentially a start to fixing it, nothing was going to be instant, but the Abraham Accords were the first logical opportunity for that to happen because of those agreements. And they were rolling and they should have been more of them. Yeah. Uh, let's just hope it happens, right? I mean, I think we would all want that to be the right goal. I'm not sure why I would ever want to tear down an opportunity for accords and peace and economic and political stability in an area, especially one that was so dynamic and dangerous. So
all right, let's move on. Thank you, Sherry. Let's all thank our speaker. And we're going to move on to another speech in the negative. There are many speeches on the list tonight. So we're going to be able to go just a few more here with the 4 minute, and then we're going to have to start shrinking the time. So I'm just letting people know that might be possible, but we'll go probably 3 more speeches with that 4 minute time slot. Our next speaker in the negative is Jason Berkovich. Jason, please unmute. You've got 4 minutes.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I think what's important to this conversation is for us to figure out what the meaning of peace is. Now, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of peace is a state of tranquility or quiet, such as freedom from civil disturbance, a state of security or order, freedom from being disturbed, freedom from disquieting, harmony in personal relationships. Donald Trump has used our armed forces in 8 different countries now. I don't know how using our armed forces to bomb or to kidnap foreign leaders is bringing about tranquility, bringing about a freedom from civil disturbance. Donald Trump is causing the civil disturbances when he bombs the countries and kidnaps their leaders. Let's look at what's happening here domestically. We can debate immigration. I don't think there's much to debate when U.S. citizens are being gunned down in the streets, which is what happened in Minneapolis. There's nothing civil or tranquil about gunning down U.S. citizens in the streets of Minneapolis. So if we look at the definition of peace, I don't see how any of Trump's actions have advanced a state of tranquility, a freedom from civil disturbance, or a state of security or order, given that the president is creating more disorder and less security. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about Venezuela, whether we're talking about Iran, whether we're talking about Nigeria, the closing of the Straits of Hormuz. That's all instability, none of which applies to the definition of peace. So overwhelmingly, if we look at the definition of peace according to the dictionary, I would say that Donald Trump's actions have overwhelmingly caused disturbances and gone against peace rather than creating more peace. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And thank you to all. I just saw this, everyone, then the hands start coming up. So I'm going to start trying to really work. Let's really be on this. Let's wait for hands to go up until speeches have ended. And if I see hands that go up ahead of time, I'll probably try and do a mix here of calling on speeches, hands that I see at the front of the queue and hands I see at the back of the queue. So I'm going to start off here by going to, and then in general, I'm going to look for people I haven't seen ask a question yet. So first, let's go to Tanya. Tanya Rai, do you want to unmute and ask your question to me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask the speaker whether he believes that mutual economic interests and economic cooperation and economic dependency is a good way to support peaceful relationships with other countries.
To our speaker.
Thank you for the question. I actually think that the economy is the key to peaceful relations amongst countries, because the more that two countries' economies are intertwined, the more that it's going to hurt for one of those countries to essentially create a state of instability in the other country. So the more that we do trade, the more that we expand our business relationships, the less likely it is for there to be war, because if there is war, both of our economies then suffer that pain. And that's what we're seeing right now with gas shooting through the roof and people now paying $4, $5, and $6 a gallon. It's because of the invasion of Iran. We've created an instability, and the market always reacts to instability by going down. There's no level of instability that causes the stock market to go up. Anytime there's instability, the stock market is going to go down. So in essence, the more that our economies are intertwined, the less likely that we are to create instability, which would then hurt both of our nations.
Let's go to one more question. Richard, please let me ask your question to me.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the speaker if he believes that the world was or the United States was in a state of peace with an open border policy, and if the world was in a state of peace.
Let's just do one question. Let's just do one question.
Okay.
There you go. To our speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't actually think that the United States was in a state of peace. And regardless of the debate about immigration, I just think the political partisanship that we have in the United States right now is creating instability. That means we're not in a state of peace with each other. So just the tensions that exist currently amongst Americans, which is nothing new, means that there is a lack of peace in our nation right now. The instability didn't begin with the shootings of U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. There's been instability for many, many years, whether you're looking at President Trump, President Biden, President Obama, even under President Bush, we had plenty of instability. We had 9/11 under President Bush. We invaded Iraq under Bush. So I think that there's been a lack of peace in this country for several decades now. And unfortunately, I think that because of that lack of peace in this country, we've forgotten what it's like to live in a state of peace. So yes, I think I would not say that there was peace prior to President Trump arriving. I don't think President Trump has improved the situation. And I think many of us have forgotten what it's like to live a peaceful life. And that's why we have to eliminate some of the political partisanship that Braver Angels works on. So thanks for the plug, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Always great when a speech comes back to Braver Angels. We definitely, Jason, you'll get your $20 later tonight. Hope you have Venmo. Thank you for your speech. Thank you for the concise questions there. Let's move on to another speech in the affirmative. I appreciate all the energy for questions, really, and I thank you all for trying to work with us as we navigate the principles here. Let's go back to Sulani. Sulani, thanks for your patience here. You have 4 minutes.
Not a problem. I think it is helpful to start with where somebody is coming from when you're speaking. And so my perspective is as a bookworm, reading lots of history, with life experience starting with memories of the Cuban Missile Crisis and extending to close family members carrying PTSD from Afghanistan and Iraq. Yes, the current president of the United States is advancing the cause of peace abroad by facing into a developing situation, threatening the stability of an entire region, and by extension, the United States and the rest of the world. The authoritarian regime in Iran had made it quite clear their intention to develop a nuclear weapon, both to hold the world hostage and to destroy Israel, which they describe as a one-bomb country. No other nuclear power, not even North Korea, has boasted of an intent to use their nuclear power. Appeasing Iran, delaying the development of nuclear weaponry would merely delay an eventual nuclear war. Iran was offered nuclear fuel and assistance in developing a nuclear energy program, but they refused. They wanted enriched uranium for a bomb, and they wanted to use the bomb. Actions taken by the current president follow precedents set over more than 8 decades since the last time Congress voted on a formal declaration of war. Nations no longer declare war, they simply wage it. War is a continuation of diplomacy and politics by other means. We will never know what would have happened had Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain faced down the developing threat from another authoritarian regime with murderous intentions in 1938. If Chamberlain had taken a hard line, if military action had been taken before Germany had finished preparing for war, then perhaps millions would not have died in combat, in extermination camps, in urban fire bombings, in the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Successful diplomacy requires a belief in consequences, and Putin experienced no consequences from President Obama when he occupied Crimea in 2014. We now have a president who has made it clear that there are consequences to back up the diplomacy. And both parties must want peace. The Iranian mullahs do not want peace. They want to drop a nuclear bomb in the Middle East. When diplomacy fails, fighting begins. Headlines are not history and have become a battlefield of another kind, pulling us apart. We all bring biases to our reaction. We will not know the reasons underlying the decisions made for at least 50 years until documents are unsealed and history is written. As an orator, President Trump is no Winston Churchill rousing the nation. His loose lips lead to polarization and annoy me to no end. But I do believe the President of the United States has taken actions with the intent to support world peace. The world has been in a state of war somewhere since the dawn of human civilization. And we will never know the counterfactual arguments. What would have happened had U.S. forces not been committed to action in Iran in 2026? I believe U.S. actions are advancing the cause of peace, not because of who is president, but based on years of studying history. Peace on earth is the exception, not the rule. And yet we yearn for peace. And I want to close with Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, Christmas Bells, the last stanza. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. I still have hope, and I still look and yearn for that peace.
Thank you, Sulani. Let's go to questions here. Michael, well, I'll go first and Michael Ushold. Hopefully I said that right. Please unmute and ask your question to me.
You did a pretty good job pronouncing. Thank you. So the speaker a moment ago said something like when diplomacy fails, then other methods of war begins. So I wonder what the speaker's opinion is about the agreement that was already in place from diplomacy and about Iran and the nuke, and that Trump blew that up when he came into office the first time. What's the speaker think about that?
To our speaker.
My opinion on that agreement is that it was an appeasement, and it was not a long-term solution. All it did was delay something that was still building, and it built. It built to where we are today.
It got blown up.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to another question. Erica, please unmute and ask your question to me.
Hi, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I enjoyed the speaker's talk, and that Longfellow poem is one of my favorites. I'm an English teacher. My question to the speaker is, do you think that...
Does the speaker think?
To the speaker, do you think that...
Does she think? Sorry, the point is to refer to the speaker in the third person. It's okay. It's okay.
I should know this. Does the speaker think that now that it looks like the nuclear capability has been destroyed, why should there be continued military action? Is a regime change something that could lead to peace? It looks like the
Let's go. That seems good. To our speaker.
I've been reading a number of analyses of what the targets have been following the initial attacks, and
there are 307.
I heard something else going on there.
We muted.
It goes back to trying to figure out, knowing what all the reasons are behind the targeting. There's been years of development of intelligence of what's going on in Iran, and one of the things that they have done is they followed a pattern of spreading out their military installations, and in an attempt to prevent them from being able to be attacked and eliminated. And so, following up, it's really important to after taking that first head of the snake off, to follow up and make sure that the ability to come back is also suppressed. And so I am trusting that the intelligence is there that supports the targeting that is occurring now.
Thank you, Sulani. And I'm sorry, I know I see so many questions. Please keep the questions coming. We're going to go, but we've got a lot of speeches that I want to try and get through, and a good number more here. So we're going to move back to the negative, and then we're going to move for one more speech for 4 minutes, and then we're going to move to shorter speeches. I'm looking for Kara Fulton for a speech in the negative. Kara, you can mute. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Peace is the presence of stable, predictable international order. And by the judgment of leading analysts with whom I agree, Donald Trump is not advancing that order. He's dismantling it. Let's start with Robert Kagan, prominent foreign policy scholar and advisor to both Republican and Democratic administrations. He argues that Trump has effectively ended the American-led liberal order that kept great power conflict in check for 80 years. Instead of strengthening alliances and institutions that prevent war, Trump is pulling the world back into what Kagan calls a 19th century international order, a world of spheres of influence where great powers compete openly and violently for territory and dominance. This is an unraveling of the rules-based order that has kept the peace since World War II. We see this unraveling clearly in Trump's approach to nuclear weapons. He withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal even after the UN certified that Iran was in compliance. He then reimposed sanctions, escalated military pressure, and assassinated an Iranian general, strengthening the argument inside Iran that nuclear weapons are necessary for survival. At the same time, he let the last nuclear agreement with Russia expire and encouraged nuclear development in Saudi Arabia while giving unconditional support to Israel, the only nuclear-armed state in the region. This is not non-proliferation, it's proliferation by example. Corbin Trent, an Appalachian-born political organizer and co-founder of Justice Democrats, argues that Trump's foreign policy reflects a deeper national crisis.
About 30 seconds left, Kara.
Well, he thinks we need to build, not destroy. And so that's all we do. Robert Reich, the third person I want to mention, he's probably known. He adds the moral dimension, and he thinks Trump's approach reflects a worldview in which might makes right. And that's not the kind of world I want to live in. So taken together, these analyses show a consistent pattern.
My calendar.
Trump is not advancing peace abroad.
Thank you. Thank you for a quick wrap up there, Kara. Let's take a question from Chuck. Chuck, please unmute and ask your question to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the lady believe that the Iranians have learned their lesson not to develop nuclear weapons and might decide to go towards biological weapons with now the capacity to target any one of the 17 genes in the Jewish genome as a clean attack? and easy to do with.
Let's go to our speaker. Does the speaker think that
Well, I'm no
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm no expert, but I do believe in using deals that can be verified.
Let's go to one more question here. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go to someone who I haven't heard from yet. Dennis, please unmute and ask your question to me.
No, actually, I did. I raised my hand because I want to be a potential speaker. Not,
Oh, Dennis,
I don't
if
have
you'd
a
like to be a
question.
speaker, please reach out to your whip.
I did already. I did.
You did
I did
already.
that. I did that already. Thank you.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
I'll wait my turn.
Appreciate it, Dennis. And we may not be able to get to everyone tonight, but we'll let you know if you're on the list or if you're going to be coming. Okay. Let's go to Michael. I saw your hand go up again. Michael, please let me ask your question to me. You're not muted. You're not unmuted yet.
Which Michael?
Michael Franklin. You. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, my question to the speaker, to the speaker, is simply this. I can't believe anybody would really believe the Iranians were going to
Michael,
my question is, does she really believe the Iranians were going to play fair? As simple as
to
that.
our speaker. Will the Iranians play fair?
Well, that's why we always use the phrase trust but verify.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to another speaker in the affirmative. For that, I am looking for Lenny Greenberg. Lenny, please be. Oh, and sorry, I should say, because we're going to try and get through so many people tonight, I'm going to shorten speeches here. So we're going to go to a cycle of 3-minute speeches. Lenny, I hope that's all right. Thank you for adjusting on the fly.
I will do my best to make it work. Thank you.
Appreciate your flexibility.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak at a debate where we're free to talk our views, our values, and use our Western civilization values of being able to talk to each other civilly. What I want to talk about a couple of things, and that's one of the reasons where we are where we are is our international institutions have failed us. The international world order, after World War I, the League of Nations didn't work out, became World War II because of World War II, and we have the United Nations, which ideally would have been a fair arbiter of trying to keep the peace. Unfortunately, it's become a very anti-Western institution right on our shores, and it seems to favor anti-Western values right now. For example, here we are, we're talking about our right to protest and even do some civil disobedience to achieve peace and our goals. And in Iran, what we saw that when the citizens attempted to rise up and express their difference of opinion with the government, they were gunned down by the IRGC. In terms of our institutions monitoring the nuclear program inside of Iran, I would say the bureaucratic bias, they did not want to really open their eyes and see some of the things or report on what they saw were obvious failures of their compliance. These reports have come out in recent days, and I have to agree with the other people who objected that Iran had never had any intentions of stopping their nuclear program because they saw that, like North Korea, if they achieved nuclear power, everybody would leave them alone and be scared of them. They'd be able to control our shipping lanes and control the shipping and control the oil and wipe out the big Satan and the little Satan. Iran was playing inside of Venezuela. Hezbollah was training. Iranian drones were being shipped to Venezuela. And had they not been stopped and Maduro pulled away, Hezbollah had free
30
reign.
seconds, Lenny.
Oh, finally, what I want to say is when's the best time to stop this before it happens? Preemption's always tricky. If you're too late, then you're accused of ignoring the intelligence. If you're too soon, you're saying you're starting a war of aggression. And those are the challenges. There's never a right time. It's better to stop the nuclear program before it happens.
Thank you, Lenny. Appreciate you. Right on time. I'll go to Bill. Bill, please unmute and ask your question to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the speaker, I wanted to ask, why would it be that securing a nuclear weapon by Iran and using that weapon would result in anything other than the complete annihilation of Iran by the United States or other nuclear powers?
To our speaker.
I want to. I would like, Mr. Speaker. I'd like a clarification from the. It was he speaking about if they had a nuclear weapon?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, that assumes that their philosophy. We have to look at what they think is meaning achieving peace, and that's being achieving peace for them is spreading their version of radical Islam across the world. That's the way that they would achieve peace. And in doing so, in their philosophy, martyrdom is part of that philosophy. They're not a rational actor as Russia was. They're not a rational actor even as North Korea and China are. They're willing to sacrifice their citizens. They're willing to sacrifice citizens, other Islamic members of Islam in other countries for their needs. You can see right now they're bombing other Islamic countries, the Sunni countries. So they're not an actor. They're willing to, unlike Russia, I think they're willing to start a nuclear war.
All right. I'm going to ask from here on out. We've got about 15, 20 minutes that we'll take to go through speeches before our debrief. From here on out, I'm going to ask all questions to be as efficient and tight as possible. So please, I'm going to turn to Rob for a last question to this speaker, and then and I hope you make me proud.
Yeah.
Please ask
so,
a question to me.
Mr. Speaker, my question to the last speaker, actually any affirmative speaker, is since the U.S. is in debt, how do we plan to pay for all this peace?
Mr. Chairman, my answer to the speaker is this: I find the budget debate very interesting in the deficit debate because it tends to be rhetoric depending on who's in power. I wish there was a party that was serious about balancing the budget, and I wish there was a party that was serious about getting our finances in order. But I live in California. So unfortunately, we can't even get it done in our states, our cities, and our counties here right now. That's a problem for us as citizens to address because nobody likes giving up the programs that they favor.
Thank you, Lenny. Thank you for your speech. I'm going to just kind of move us quickly, but please don't stop doing the jazz hands, everyone, even if I'm not leading the charge. Gratitude is so constant here from the chair, at least tonight. We're going to turn now for a speech in another 3-minute speech in the negative, and then we're going to shorten to 2-minute speeches because we're going to try and get through a few more here. I'm going to Graham, please. Graham for a speech in the negative. Graham Balch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure I could have done 2 minutes, so I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get going.
Appreciate your flexibility.
I would like to start by saying many of us Americans supported Trump because he promised fewer foreign entanglements. Trump specifically said on the campaign, "These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas while keeping us distracted from the havoc they're creating here at home." I would ask my red friends to use Trump's own campaign words of peace to judge whether he is a peace president. That may be hard to square with the fact that Trump has attacked 7 nations and authorized more airstrikes in 2025 than Biden did in all 4 years. And that is before the bombings in Iran. I want to go back to something Art said. He asked a very good question about what constitutes peace. I would answer there are 2 important elements: ending evil and creating a sustainable resolution to the conflict. In a demonstration of both elements, the US during World War II used the biggest demonstration of power ever to cause Japan to surrender, and then focused on helping Japan rebuild from the ashes. We do not yet know the outcome in Iran, so let us look at Venezuela. Has the Trump administration ended the evil and or created a sustainable resolution to the conflict? Let's be clear. Maduro was corrupt and evil, and it is very good that he is gone. Full stop. Biden showed weakness not dealing with the stolen Venezuela election in July 2024. So if Maduro has been removed, why do I say Trump has failed on both criteria for peace in Venezuela? Working backwards, starting with sustainable resolution, Trump rejected the overtures from the rightfully elected conservative Machado, which could have put Venezuela on a path to democracy. This also would have allowed Venezuela to manage its own nation building. Instead, Venezuela is controlled by the US, forgotten, in limbo, and not moving forward. On ending evil, the US is currently working with the same paramilitary groups that Maduro used to terrorize and control the country corruptly. None of
30
the
seconds, Graham.
Thanks. None of the stated objectives, such as reducing drug trafficking, have happened. If Trump had put Venezuela on a different path, I could agree he might be a peace president through strength. But just because he shows strength does not mean he has achieved peace. I strongly urge my red friends to think about what constitutes peace and then ask if you have seen these actions from Trump using specific criteria that we apply equally to blue and red presidents. I have not, which is why I argue the negative.
Thank you, Graham. Let's move to questions. Okay, let's go to Max. Max, please let me ask your question to me quickly.
As an Iranian, I like to see Ayatollahs in snack packets as much as anyone else. But my question is, why did you vote for Trump?
Why did the speaker vote?
Yes, correct. Why did the speaker vote for Trump and not see this type of behavior coming?
Mr. Chair, I think the person asking the question is confused. I did not state who I voted for.
Let's go to another question then. Paul, haven't seen you yet. Please unmute and ask your question to me, Paul Croce.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to say.
Oh, you're asking. This is for a question. Do you have a question of the speaker?
I have a question for both sides. They each make good points. May I?
Well, we're just asking questions of this speaker of the person who just argued in the negative.
Okay, well, I can
So
tailor
if we need to go to
Chair.
Pardon?
I can tailor it that way, Mr. Chair.
All right, please be concise.
Okay, I hope we can make use of the points that the speaker made. With both sides want peace, either directly or peace through strength. Can the advocates for peace use Trump's peace through strength and his disruptions to bring about more peace by urging Iranian reformers to provide an exit ramp for the war? Can the supporters of the
that sounds good,
administration
Paul.
hold them
Let's close
to
it
peace?
there and go to our speaker.
I think that was a great question, and I really appreciate the emphasis on coming together and not making this a red-blue argument. So thank you. I think it's possible for peace to be achieved by strength, but you don't do it by bombing the hell out of him and declaring victory and saying it's over and then coming back and saying we have to do it again. This is not peace. And so I think it's possible, but it requires strategy and not just strength. And I don't see the strategy.
With that,
Yes.
I'm going to thank our speaker, Graham. Appreciate your time. We're going to move now to, we have enough time, I believe, for 4 more speeches if we move fast. So I'm going to have 2-minute speeches now. I'm looking now for Merrick. Merrick Roman, please unmute. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you,
Speak
Mr.
in the-
Chair. Mr. Chair, picture the Pax Romana at the height of the Roman Empire. Travelers journeyed safely across vast territories from Britain to Syria, carrying gold without fear of bandits. Why? Because Roman legions enforced order through overwhelming military might and certainty of swift retribution. I am in favor of Trump's military force for building peace in this world. I believe that the opposing side sees as military might, narcissism, or whatever word that wants to be thrown out, as a succinct way of getting rid of irrational actors from the globe that is causing this instability. Nearly 20% of all crude goes to the Strait of Hormuz, and we have an irrational actor that does not want to act within the guidelines of their people, of their citizens. They would rather want to act irrationally, trying to kill Western nations. What good military policy talks about is wanting to get rid of that irrationality in a quick and succinct way, not nation building. We all find that in calm times that we can enjoy the fruits of our labor. We can enjoy having our hobbies, make money. But when we are under
30 seconds,
duress,
Merrick.
when we are under duress with irrational actors, we have to pay that price. That is why I'm in favor of Trump's policy.
Thank you. Let's take some questions. I haven't heard from, is it Saint Formaker yet? Please unmute. Ask your question to me.
Steve Formaker.
Steve, please unmute. Ask your question to me. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is whether we truly can achieve peace through what we are doing in Iran without nation building, because we are apparently trying to destroy the current regime, but it has to be replaced by something.
Our speaker.
Mr. Speaker, nations are will pick their speaker and based off of their government or based off of the will of the people. In that these governments, as long as there are irrational actors that are continued to be elected, that is when a rational actor that is acting in their best interest, aka the United States or other Western powers, will seek to replace those people through the means that we are seeing right now. So it is until the Iranian people pick a rational actor that they can rejoin the world as a nation.
All right. With one more, I'll go to Leandra Schuler. Leandra, please unmute and ask your question to me.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Does the speaker realize that the president has not changed the regime at all? They just killed the figureheads and had no intention of changing the actual regime, the actual leadership. So leaving them in the same position they started in.
To our speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we have been taking out people that have been duly elected by their Congress, not by so much by their people. I'm concerned with the way that the Iranian, although there's different ways of electing leaders throughout the world, that we actually have had change. And there have been people, whether you want to call it people being elected or cardboard cutouts being paraded around. Eventually, there will be someone that wants to act rationally, and that we will have a rational actor that we can enjoy peace in this world. Thank you.
With that, we're going to move to another speech in the negative. Thank you. I'm looking now. We had a speaker that we were planning to have drop out. So I'm looking now for Bill Woodson. Bill, are you still here? And if so, I hope you're up for giving a quick speech, 2 minutes in the negative.
I'll see what I can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Promoting peace effectively means promoting a sense of safety for all parties. It means that people have a shared understanding of the rules and the expectations. It means that whether a country has great military strength or is maybe less powerful, that they still have a sense of safety. Trump has made the world less safe for virtually every country on the planet. He has made our military, the militarily powerful adversaries, especially China and Russia, even more dangerous and more free to pursue their darker ambitions. And it's just clear that those who should be our allies, who should be who are our neighbors, countries such as Canada, Mexico, Panama, Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, he's made them more fearful. He's made them less safe. And fear leads to conflict. Fearful neighbors make our country less safe as well. And our actions in the Middle East are destined to inspire a new generation of terrorists. And even within the borders of our own country, Americans will be less safe as a result of the actions of this president. 9/11 shows us what happens when you meddle in the Middle East, when you try to dictate the lives of other people, that they respond in ways that endanger our safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Well under time. Impressive. Appreciate your argument. Let's go to questions. I see Steve, and I don't think I've called on you yet, Steve. Please unmute, ask your question to me.
Steve Ressler, you got the right one?
Correct.
Super. Mr. Chair, a concise question for the speaker. I'm going to change it a little bit because of this, but with the supposition that the U.S. has decreasing affinity for boots on the ground nation building, and in light of what you just shared, can you make an argument for in light of what was just shared, can the speaker make an argument for leadership decapitation with no boots on the ground as being likely to foster a liberal democracy, liberals and free, balanced democracy?
To our speaker.
So decapitation of other countries' leaders is one of the most destabilizing actions that one nation can take against other nations. It is something that when the leader is taken down, the leader is not safe. It creates uncertainty and fear. It creates power vacuums. It diminishes a sense of a rules-based order, and it amplifies the sense that right is the only way, that might is the only way to secure your own safety, and that it's absolutely the opposite of actions and strategies that would make for a safer world.
All right. With that, let's see. I took one. Let's go to another. Timothy. Timothy, please unmute. Ask your question to me. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question for the speaker or for anyone else would be, why is it bad to strike terror into the hearts of leaders and countries that genuinely mean us harm and are attempting to do us harm? Why is that bad?
To our speaker.
I think a question like that presupposes that there's no reason for those who hurt or mean us harm, who are antagonistic towards us, that those feelings come from nowhere. We look at Iran and we say, they call us the great Satan. They don't deal with the fact that we've already, the CIA overthrew the legitimately elected government of Iran years and years ago. That Britain and the U.S. created Israel basically and landed it in the middle of the country, and then supported Israel even as Israel has antagonized and killed and displaced tens and hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. So to say, well, we should just strike terror in the hearts of people who hate us without understanding how our behaviors foster that hatred in the first place is naive.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for once again delivering a pithy speech and answering questions and concise questions as well being asked. We've got time for two more speeches, one in the affirmative, one in the negative, 2 minutes each. And I'll hopefully have time for a question, maybe two if they're extra super fast. I'm going to look now for a final speech in the affirmative from Paul Norris. Paul, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm a former believer in nonviolence, but then I made the mistake of learning history. And what I've concluded is nonviolence works against regimes that have not completely lost their humanity. I mean, interestingly and forgotten to history is that Gandhi suggested that people not resist the Nazis. Also forgotten is that everybody believed that peace was guaranteed through trade just prior to World War One. So, I believe in peace through strength, as a lot of other people have said. I think radical Islam, to me, seems to be worse than the Nazis. The only grace is that they've never gotten real power. And one of the things that I think has not been brought up is, Iran not only, was working on nuclear capability, but we're also developing so many conventional weapons that they were getting to the point where it would no longer be feasible to actually diminish their capability and to stop them from getting nuclear weapons. And that's my speech.
Thank you, Paul. You might have more time for answering some questions then. So that was just about a minute. So let's take questions. See, John Garnett, please unmute, ask your question to me.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to know why the United States is attacking Iran now. I don't see that Iran has done anything to be attacked. And
John, I think that's a great, concise question. Why is Iran being attacked now? To our speaker.
I believe I covered that in my speech. They are, not only nuclear capability, but developing the capability in conventional weapons where it would no longer be feasible to end their nuclear program.
For another question, since that was quick, let's go to Sally Lee. Sally, please unmute and ask a quick question to me.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. The previous speaker happened to mention peace through trade as at one time being thought of as a possible means to peace. Given that countries like Canada are looking more and more to China for mutual economic benefit, does the speaker think that Trump's transactional approaches will, in the long run, advance peaceful relations between the U.S. and countries that have been traditionally both allies and adversaries, like Canada and China, respectively?
Yeah, I don't know the outcome of that, and I don't feel as firm on that as I do on Iran.
All right. Well, we always applaud people who respond to questions with "I don't know." That's very brave angels of you, Paul. Thank you, and thank you for giving a quick and succinct speech. I'm hoping for another one here for our final speech of the evening before we head to our debrief. So don't leave too quick. I'm looking for Nathan Chung. Please unmute, and you have 2 minutes to close us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, my opinion and my bias is formed from growing up as a Korean American in the US. I was born in the US and then I spent my childhood in Korea when it was taken over by a dictator named Chun Doo-han. He would shoot at his own citizens for protesting against his dictatorship. So my feeling is that people in power are fallible people like the rest of us. They have their own agendas, their own biases, their need for self-protection. So from my observation of the inconsistent speeches by the Trump administration and a lot of their actions, including violence toward its own citizens and immigrants, whether they're authorized or not, I think they have different agenda that's other than peace. They are fallible people who are concerned for self-preservation, but also for resource extraction. We as Americans, Americans as a whole, we need to consider our own approach toward our consumption patterns that result in a lot of demand for global resources. So this is, in a way, a global war for resources. And the thing about nuclear weapons, U.S. is the only country that has actually ever used a nuclear weapon on a civilian population against Japan back in 1945. So I think it is kind of It is lack of self-awareness to portray Americans ourselves as this peaceful arbiter who can regulate nuclear weapons safely and be the world police. When our own history has a lot of these difficult contradictions and cruelty that we need to come to terms with. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Let's go to, we'll see how quick these questions are, but I saw Terry's hand first. Terry, please unmute and ask your question to me.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the speakers. And he comes from Korea, so my question has to do with Korea, North Korea. Do you think that the potential does the speaker think that the potential for a disastrous nuclear a war would come from North Korea or from Iran?
To our speaker.
I think because of the tension, North Korea is, they are aware of mutually assured destruction, and there are a lot of American military bases in South Korea. So I think that chance of either North Korea decimating South Korea or Iran decimating is unlikely. And one thing I want to add as I end is that the U.S., the South and North Korean split was caused by U.S. and the Soviets when they were allies in 1945. It was not a self-made decision. The country was arbitrarily divided by half by the outside forces. Thank you.
With that, we're going to have to wrap the debate up, and I'm going to move us to our debrief here, but I need first I will just close us out here first so we can drop the honorifics and that sort of thing. But could I have a motion to end this debate? Thank you to all of our speakers. And a second? Second. Boom. Okay. Boom. This debate is now adjourned, seeing the lateness of the hour, yada, yada, yada. And you don't have to call me Mr. Chair anymore. You certainly don't have to call me Madam Chair. Although if you want, I guess I would have responded to that too, just because I have to. Listen, a couple of things that I want to say before we go to the debrief. First, I know there were people on the list. I know there were a lot of people on the list that we couldn't get to tonight, and I'm sorry about that. This is inevitable with the number of people that registered and wanted to give a speech in tonight's debate. So I'm thankful to all of you for your patience, and I hope that some of you were able to ask questions who maybe weren't able to give speeches. The second thing is this debate was just on a personal note, maybe I'll kick off the debrief, but I will have learned things from this debate. This was a challenge as a chair. And I think that I grew as a chair in this debate, and there were situations that I hadn't experienced before. And I want to thank all of you for giving me that opportunity to grow in this role tonight. So thank you. This is a tough one and a challenge, but those are positive things for those of us who are trying to build leadership skills by being, occupying roles in Braver Angels. That's the last I'll say. Thank you all for being here tonight and giving speeches and making comments. But now I'm going to turn it over to all of you. I want to give everyone else a chance to debrief and break down what you experienced tonight. I'm especially curious what those of you who are here for the first time thought, what your first impressions were. So if you'd like to share perspectives, the chat's going to be open, and we're also going to I'm going to take a few hands. But remember, I said at the beginning, if this is your first debate, if you want to raise your Zoom hand, so that the little yellow hand, but also give me a little 1 number, that would be indicating that it's your first debate. And I'll probably try and call on more people. I'm just seeing a lot of those. So let me just start going. I'm looking for what you enjoyed, what constructive things you're taking away from tonight. So Steve, I see your hand first.
Yeah, my first time, and I'm a physician, and I really appreciate constructive dialogue, but also format. And I realize as humans, as complex as we are, I really appreciate that just creating some format and some I guess formality, I don't know if there's a better word for that, also kind of helps us with bring out our better angels, I guess. And I appreciate how you modeled that. And I learned something, from many of the speakers and really enjoyed the dialogue.
Thank you, Steve. Let's go to Steve Formaker. Quickly, please. Let's see how many we can get through. You're muted. All right, well, Steve unmutes. I'm going to go to Don. Don, please unmute and share your thought. Steve, I'll go to you next.
Thank you. Are you?
Don, you're up. You're up.
Okay.
I do appreciate the chance to be here and to listen to the debate. I thought went very well. I appreciate everybody being civil and the organization going through that. It did open my eyes to how people feel, opposite of my feelings about the whole uh, you know Trump presidency, basically. So, and I
Wonderful.
appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm trying to look at faces I haven't heard from yet, so I'm gonna go Lee. Lee, please. Oh, sorry, I said Steve. You're next. Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Late.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought it was very interesting hearing a wide variety of perspectives. There were a lot of different approaches to the question. The one kind of criticism I would make is that a lot of us wanted to talk about their broader feelings about the Trump administration rather than the particular question of whether Mr. Trump is advancing the cause of peace abroad, which was the question presented. And I think in future debates, it would be good to try to keep it focused on the actual question presented rather than broader issues surrounding the president.
Thanks, Steve. I'll go to Lee Hamilton and then Natalie.
Yeah, hi. I learned tonight about the importance of focusing on concepts. So I came in and still do lean toward this is not a peacemaking adventure here, but this concept of using strength, maybe at times, maybe appropriately, thoughtfully, methodically, and with an end game, is something I really now want to give a lot more of my time and attention and research to. So I thank those, particularly who who spoke in the affirmative, for bringing that forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go Natalie and then Max.
Yeah,
Take a few more of these.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate it. And I don't remember who it was, but the person who noted that we all want peace. I think it's really easy to get lost in this conversation and paint, people who have a different perspective on this issue than us as completely evil and not in pursuit of peace. And so I really appreciated the person who pointed that out. Also just want to give an extra kudos to Mr. Chair. I do not envy his role this evening. This was a really hard debate to chair, and you did an excellent job.
Very kind of you. Max, and then we'll go, I keep these ones up for those who are here for the first time. We'll go Max and then Merrick. Go to some of our speakers. Try to be quick.
Yeah, I thought it was really great listening to everybody and how we can all have our analysis and approach it from different angles and see largely the same thing. I thought I got some really good questions. And as a side note, I thought Cynthia did a really great job speaking, and I really would enjoy to hear more from her in the future.
Merrick, and then Tom.
Just hats off to the speaker. Thank you for this. Thank you for sticking to the rules. I think that's great. That makes us better speakers, better debate, better rules. Just looking forward to coming back to a future one. Thank you again for showing off our bravery angels and for this debate.
Tom, and then, oh my gosh, there's so many ones. I want to hear from all of you. If you try to put your thing in the chat, even if I can't get to you, because we got to wrap up soon. Tom, and then I think Jessica, 3 people there will try and kill 3 birds with 1 stone, and then that'll be the last one.
Thanks, Chair Sam. I was actually surprised. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful that people are willing to communicate different perspectives. That's hugely important to me. And I think the one thing that I was surprised, though, was not anything having to do with Braver Angels per se. I was surprised that the debate seemed to be based more opinions and some historical context too, rather than any sort of standard, where their foundational standard, like maybe our Constitution, right? I mean, a lot of these issues that we have a lot of opinions on don't really seem to I didn't hear anybody even mention the proper role of government and what the president should be doing and what he should be doing, what Congress should be doing, and all of that. And I believe that most of that can be solved with that. So, relating to the debate specifically, I believe that if we can reference
Sounding a
some
little
sort
bit
of
like a
foundation,
speech, Tom.
well, if we could base it more on some sort of foundation or discuss the foundations for our argument, I feel like it would help bring context. Sorry.
That's okay. Let's go to Jessica for our
I had
final
a very
note.
complimentary but perhaps opposite perspective, which was that I came in, I think, looking for a little bit more expertise based on like our recent experience with Immigration 101. And as our first debate, for the three of us, first of all, it's valuable for us to be able to speak about it together within the family and some extensions, but it's also been fascinating to see how much more enthusiastic I got about understanding other people's perspective as we went, because it really is about the connection and understanding the opposition, not just about the legalistic sort of references that the previous speaker alluded to.
That's a wonderful reflection, Jessica. Thank you and your family for joining us tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Roy to tell us a little bit about why he is involved. Roy has been, I think I was doing the math on this not too long ago. I think Roy was in we did 16 national debates last year. I think Roy was in 13 of them as a staff member, some crazy number like that. Roy's very involved and we're really happy to have him here. So Roy, why are you involved with Braver Angels and debates?
Yeah, thank you all for being here. Yeah, I volunteer with Braver Angels and I've been a participant and attending for a long time as well, because this is magic. I mean, the odds of any of us interacting with people in different states with regularity, in different rural and urban and environments, the odds of us being able to do what we're doing, to exchange our ideas fully and with curiosity, was zero recently. Like it's only, a few years now that we could have a Zoom room with hundreds of our fellow citizens and hear what they think and understand where they're coming from. And I think it's a gift. I get way more out of this than I put into it. And I think it's really, really valuable. There was just a Pew Research study that the US, both sides felt that the other side was a moral failure. And I've never seen that. And I've been in lots of these debates. So that's a problem. We need to talk across the table. And here's a rare, free, nationwide opportunity that I wish you would all bring one more friend to, or at least tell them about it, because it's going to make our country better.